This is the Blue Room. It's the weekly show. We are live on YouTube, I think, as well. Still getting to grips with all of this. As you can see, I am joined by Sarah Halpin. Sarah, how are you?
I'm not doing too badly, thank you, mate. Getting there in all this madness, but certainly glad to see football and Everton and all the rumours and stuff is kicking on. So nice distractions for us there. It's all began again.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave Downey will be joining us shortly as well. As ever, he's having a few technical issues, but we should be able to get him on the call soon. In fact, he's coming on the call now, so it won't be too long before Dave is on. Just give you a bit of a rundown of what we're going to be talking about today on the show. Of course, we speak about the links to James or James Rodriguez, who quite knows how you pronounce it, but he has been strongly linked with a move to Everton over the last few days, of course. We'll speak about those rumours and how significant those rumours are. Do we want the player or not? We'll have to wait and see on all that sort of thing. There's also been a lot of stuff around Everton Stadium today, as I'm sure you've all seen, some slight tweaks to the design and all the other stuff going on around the football club at the moment. But Dave is on the call now, I believe. How are you doing, mate? You okay?
Yeah, good, thanks. Good, excited after the plans were revealed before.
Yeah, well, in fact, we'll start on that, actually, and everybody who's watching this live on YouTube, do get in touch with us, do let us know what you think. Sarah, obviously, about 3 o'clock today, the club confirmed some details regarding the stadium and what's going to happen going forward. I think when we all saw that, it was one of those cases where you think, oh no, what's gone wrong here? So I think the worst case scenario when it comes to Everton and stadiums is certainly what's gone on in 2020. But just some sensible moves by the football club you sensed in regards to what to do. And obviously the design structure's been changed a little bit in regards to the roof. The car park's been moved. The planning permission looks like it's going to be put back a little bit, which is to be expected, I suppose, in the world we're living in at the moment. But I think that the main takeaway from a lot of supporters is the aesthetics and the optics of the ground. And I have to say, I think it looks a lot better, that design with the steps near the front. What about you?
Yeah, seeing the photographs, an hour or so ago, I'm with you there, Matt. I think it looks delightful, having the big staircase going across on the concourse up to the ground. And, there's been a few little tweaks and changes. And aesthetically, I think it's equally, if not more pleasing than before. So you're right in what you say. As soon as the club make an announcement on the stadium, I think every Evertonian's kind of got instinct is to panic a little bit and think, oh gosh, what's happened? But again, it shows that the club are being ultra respectful and, doing everything that they can do to get it spot on. Obviously, there'll probably be a few more, there'll be a few weeks added onto the process and stuff now. But yeah, I think Evertonians can breathe a sigh of relief that it doesn't look like it's anything that's going to be off-putting to the stadium going forward. I think it's only a positive thing, and aesthetically, what a gorgeous stadium that's going to be. So I'll take an extra few weeks. Very, very happy with how it looks.
What about you, Dave? You in the same boat?
Yeah, I think it looks more aesthetically pleasing, doesn't it? Without a big car park sort of overshadowing one side of the stadium. I think they've lowered the stand on one side as well. It looks lovely, doesn't it, when you look at the steps and the concourse and the way it sort of extends out towards the river and things like that. Ideal spec for getting photos and things, isn't it? I mean, it's going to be bombarded as soon as people are allowed anywhere near the ground after its construction. As soon as it opens, I think probably see a lesser impact on a match day than there will people being down there as soon as it opens, because they'll just want a little bit of a taste of our new future. And I also think as well on more on the planning side of things, it's reassuring to all of us that this is still going ahead and we haven't seen a major impact from the coronavirus and the lockdown. It's just basically elongated the planning process and the ruling on when that comes back. Obviously, you'd expect that to happen. You'd expect it to add a few months onto that process. But for the club to come out and say they expect a spade in the ground early part of 2021, with everything that's been and gone in the last, since the world's gone crazy in the last 6 months, is a testament to how well they seem to be handling this project. So I'm really excited, and it was great to hear a positive response, I think, to many people's concerns, because we find it so easy to be sceptical about these things, don't we, at our football club, just for the reason that things just seem to happen due to bad luck. A global pandemic and crisis in the middle of you trying to build a brand new stadium, which is effectively your future on the line, could be the most Everton thing you could possibly conjure up in your head. So to hear that all of those sort of flames are being fanned a little bit and things are progressing as normal is a big relief, I think, to many of us.
Yeah, I think it's one of them as well, which I think it's good for me that they are still being malleable with this and they can still be a little bit flexible with this to a degree, because I think if already things were completely set in stone and they were going to go one way and that was it, then we could be in a situation here where things, given the situation of the world, given the design of the stadium, which is obviously very complex, we could have been a little bit hamstrung and maybe not been able to do a lot of these things. But it's good that the club is still taking feedback on. They can still make these changes. And I think as well, Sarah, it's one of them where when you move to a new stadium and everyone's going there for the first time, you can imagine how weird the whole thing is going to feel, and everyone's match day routines will be skewed. You won't meet at the same sorts of places. I think having points of interest around the ground, whether it be the fan zone looking at putting, the other side of the waterfront, whether it be the steps on the waterfront side, whether it be a statue at a particular end, I think it's good that they've got those sorts of focal points that people can congregate at. I sort of put jokingly before, when this was announced, that it's the sort of place where you go, I'll meet you at the steps when we're 2-0 down on 80 minutes after the game. We can walk up and get a taxi into town. But I think having those sorts of things when you're moving somewhere new and those places and points of reference is important, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. We've got to completely change our match day structure, our match day routine. It's not like maybe we can ask them to put a hot wok on the corner of the stairs or something like that. That tends to be one of my meeting places. But yeah, you're right. I think it's going to be a whole new world for us. There's very little to do in terms of around Goodison Park. You've got your pubs, and everyone's got their go-to pubs. You've got the fan zone. You've got your chippy, whatever you want to do, your hot wok. But yeah, I think going forward with such a groundbreaking stadium and, taking the club forward and things like that, it is going to be nice to have focal points around the ground, because it's not all just about the 90 minutes, is it? As we know, it's a culture, it's a way of life. It's about seeing your mates on a match day, meeting up who you want to meet, getting the team news in. And yeah, the more there is to do around the ground, and obviously you want that, don't you? You want the fans congregating and building an atmosphere up, especially where it is in the centre, right on the docks. So yeah, I think it's going to be one hell of a spectacle when we finally do move, and yeah, we'll all have to figure our way around the new stadium, new stairs and everything. But yeah, it's weird. It's weird when you actually think of it, isn't it? I just had a little thought then of how match days are going to change. But yeah, it looks like there's going to be plenty of places for Blues to get about and beautiful scenery to take in before the game as well.
I think that is really important, isn't it, Dave? I think Sarah's made a really good point there in regards to what the club wants. And, when we've spoken to the club briefly about this in the past, what the club wants is for as many Evertonians to be around this venue and at this venue before the match day. And it's not just from a commercial point of view where we can say, well, obviously we want people around the ground spending money on food and drinking in their own outlets and outlets in that particular area. I think it is sort of getting that sense of togetherness and that collective as well that the Sarah spoke about there, is that, the more people around the ground you get on a match day, the more chance you've got to see people singing, the more fan initiatives go on, and that sense of a collective just builds and builds and builds. And while we all love Goodison Park and the atmosphere has been there at times, throughout certain years, I think the fan base as a whole is quite divided and it's quite fractured when it comes to that sort of thing. So getting as many people as possible at this ground, half an hour before match day, I think is going to be vital. And having places like the steps where you can sit off and maybe have a pint with your mates, having that fan zone, they're really important draws for people to come to the stadium for the game, aren't they?
Massive. It's crucial if you think about how football fans evolve and how atmospheres work. Now, the option of safe standing probably comes into that discussion as well at some point, which will, in my opinion, be magnificent to see football fans allowed to do that in obviously a really safe area to do so. But you're right. I think when you look at Goodison and how we all have our match day routines and things like that, they don't often involve being at the actual ground itself for too long, really, do they? It's people, aside from going like the pubs around the ground, and obviously a lot of people do that, it's not in their droves, is it? It's not in thousands. We're talking like hundreds of people, maybe other fans on for a pint, the break, the other pubs that are around the area. That's not a majority of the crowd that end up inside Goodison for 90 minutes. And then after that, it's the same people who go back to those pubs. Whereas with this, everybody can go to, there'll be that much to do and that much of a vast space to operate within. everybody, the encouragement will be to get to the ground as early as possible and enjoy everything pre-match about it. I mean, nobody will like me saying this, but that's the exact thing you get when you go to Anfield. I've been to Anfield a few times on a corporate thing and things like that, and they encourage you to get there as early as possible in order to have these experiences, to encourage you to obviously buy things from the football club as well. It's a commercial deal that we all have to get involved in as well, because that's how effectively Everton are going to kick on in this world now and push towards the elite status of clubs. It's vital that supporters are able to supplement the income they get from everywhere else. And post-match, I don't think you went down there, Matt, but down at Spurs last season, everything is pointed towards keeping fans at the venue. They open the little microbrewery up for a couple of hours after the game. And it's such a tight space, Spurs. I think we'll have that advantage is, well, you've got the city centre on your doorstep for wherever you need to get to as well. I know there'll be issues with the infrastructure in terms of how mass gathering of people will affect the roads and things like that around there. But they've decided not to go with like a train station or anything like that. It's just going to be made into a big, wide, open space for everybody to enjoy. So if you're going to Bramley Moor to sit and get a pint off the local Everton distributors and places like that, and go to the commercial side of things, I'm pretty sure everywhere in and around there, and this is where a lot of people sort of gloss over this, because it's often a thing that a lot of people say when new buildings come to cities, but the infrastructure and jobs and everything like that is all dependent on everybody getting down there as often as they can. Yeah. There'll be retail parks, there'll be hotels, things like that are all built with the purpose of getting the club to a higher level commercially. So you're dead right. It's dead important that they get that message right. That, look, okay, we've got a 3 o'clock Saturday afternoon kickoff. We're happy for you to come in and we'll open our doors at 12. The great thing about that is you've got everything at your disposal. Stadium will open an hour and a half before kickoff. You want everyone sort of queuing to get in. And I think that creates a magnificent atmosphere if everybody's sort of down there early. The anticipation for the match will build up. It'd be like going to an away for many people, I think.
Yeah. I think that's a great way of putting it, actually. Just a few comments we've had on the stadium. First and foremost, actually, Ethan Brown has said, Dave is such a diva, loves the late grand entrance.
I am notoriously late for everything I do in my life, so yeah, absolutely.
Lee would
not on the performance store. There's no way I'm like that.
Lee Stanley has said this appeases some of the concerns over some councillors using the heritage issue as a reason to block it, but we'll look forward to that spade being in the ground. Do a couple more. Live Avid has said the stadium should have a plaque on the story of the club, and I hope the club have an indoor disabled facility as well, which would obviously be, something that would be fantastic. It just sort of moves us on to the next point in regards to Everton's new kit today. Sarah is donning, for those watching on YouTube, obviously the away kit. At the moment, Everton announced the new fair kit today. I'm a big fan of it. I think it looks really good. The goalkeeper kit is an absolute dream, but the announcement, Sarah, was particularly struck a chord in me in regards to Everton getting some of the disabled teams involved in that, and it's really refreshing to see that sort of thing.
Yeah, it is, and we always talk about, don't we, Everton and how great they are with doing things like that. But the fact that it is Everton's disability football team's 20-year anniversary, I believe, I just feel that that's a really nice touch to give them the reveal, the grand. It's something we always look forward to as fans, is to see what the players are going to be wearing next year, and to see them given. We saw a few years ago as well that Everton women did it with the away kit, but I feel like this is just again another thing of tying us all in as one big family. It fits in with the More Than 11 campaign, and the launch video. I thought it was brilliant. And although I think sometimes we could be a little bit more. Move away from that side of things a little bit on the football pitch and become a little bit more nasty in that sense. Seeing things like that is something that no other club does like Everton, and just delighted for the guys in that disability football team to be able to have their moment like that. They deserve it. They're fantastic, and also the kit's beautiful. I've had the privilege of just being able to see it in person today. I haven't got it yet, which is why I've got this one on. But it looks even more stunning in person. The colour of it, that sort of mint green, and the goalie kit, as you said, fantastic. But no, the reveal from the disability football team, I think, was just a really nice touch from Hummel as well. I think they've clearly taken the time to get to know Everton. You've seen that in a lot of the promo stuff they've done so far. So, massive well done to Everton and to Hummel on that kit launch. Thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, just before I get your thoughts on it, Dave, Rob has said in the comments on YouTube, the goalkeeper kit looks like it's based off the Arctic Monkeys AM album cover. I think that's a great shout with the sound waves on the front, obviously. But Dave, you've been notoriously critical of the kits that we've had so far. You've said openly you're not that fussed on Hummel, but I think even you today in one of our WhatsApp chats said you don't mind this one.
I think it's nice. I think they've got progressively better. I'm not a fan of the home one. I think they kept it and played it far too safe with the home one. But the away, the colours they've chosen, the colour scheme for it, like you can see with Sarah there, those chevrons really stand out on the side of the shirts. Yeah, as you can see, I love the collar as well. All of that, I'm absolutely fine with the design. The only issue I ever had with Hummel was the commercial side of things, and that perhaps not being the type of deal that we're looking to really spurred us on to mixing it with the teams above us. I think that is probably quite a fair comment. But in terms of the style and look, the away one, that yellow one's stunning. And this one, someone made a really good point to me. He said, do you think they got the home colour scheme and the actual outfield kits the wrong way round, and the goalkeeper one should be green and the outfield one should be black and gold? And I was like, do you know what? You sort of spoiled for choice because Jordan Pickford wears short sleeve shirts in goal generally. They obviously always bring out a short sleeve version of the away kit. So I always used to be a little bit sceptical about getting an away top or any top in the goalkeeper style because of the long sleeves. And the old ones used to have a bit of padding on the shoulders and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But with it being like that, it just looks like a normal shirt, the goalkeeper one. So in effect, it looks like we're getting two away kits for people to buy, because that goalkeeper one's absolutely stunning. But what was it called, Matt? The name that they've given it?
It was something like
seafoam,
yeah.
I don't know about seafoam. When I think of the sea, I think a little bit more turquoise, something like that.
Top mint.
Yeah, top mint. It's a mint. It does make
scuba top mint.
I seen somebody saying, I can't wait to be sitting outside West Brom 3-0 down, wearing a soft mint jersey. No issues at all. I think it's a really nice looking kit. It's really shorts on all of them look impeccable as well, by the way. I always wish we have an all blue home kit. I know that'd be a controversial thing to say, but the all blue kit looks stunning to me. You wore it at Blackpool at the weekend, and I thought it looked fantastic.
Yeah, chevrons on shorts look great always. Yeah. So I mean, they've got the shorts absolutely right. Yeah, it looks like the inside of like an arrow to me.
Yeah,
like Mintero, yeah. But let us know what you think of the kit. What chocolate bar or seed does it remind you of?
Do you know what makes me feel like really cold when I look at it, like in a refreshing sort of way? Because if anybody's ever had mint shower gel, and I'm probably looking more at the lads here when I say this.
Oh, the original sauce. Yeah,
the mint shower gel hits it in places that you probably shouldn't be hitting.
Yeah,
and the colour of it is similar to the kit, so it makes me feel really cold. I'll stop there.
Yeah, it's a party in the shower, isn't it? When you have that stuff. We'll move on before we go to speak about the transfer stuff, and before we go to speak about James Rodriguez, Alan, and Jacore. Do get your comments in and what you think about those potential deals. Where everything go next. Should they even be looking at those sorts of players? Let us know. But just very quickly, Sarah, you've been hanging out this week with Hayley Rasso, new signing for Everton Women. We just had a little chat before we came on air then, and you were saying she's quite a character and seems to have settled in dead quickly in the city.
Oh, mate, she's boss. Like, I went for a coffee with her a couple of weeks ago, socially distanced, of course, and in town, and she was just really keen on getting to explore Liverpool. And judging by her Instagram story, she's out in the city centre every day just exploring. And we showed her a few things around the city. And, she was loving. She was having banter with some of the fans and stuff as well. Like, I remember there was a Liverpool fan walking past her at one point and saying, you've got the wrong shirt on there, girl. And she just like, what? Sorry, I can't understand. What? And I said, I was saying you've got the wrong shirt on. And she's like, oh, I know, I was just like winding him up. You know what I mean? She gets the red and the blue. Tim Cahill's obviously a really good friend of hers. And I had the privilege of interviewing her last week as well. And for those that don't know about Hayley, she actually broke her back like almost exactly 2 years ago. She broke her back and it was feared she might never walk again. She was playing in the World Cup within less than 12 months. And I think that just kind of shows the mentality of the girl, like the kind of person she is. And certainly welcome that kind of attitude and that kind of grit and determination to an Everton side. And we've got good history with Australians, haven't we? So yeah, let's hope she delivers on that one too.
They're absolutely flying, Australia, aren't they, sir?
Yeah, fingers crossed. And just go on, Dave. Sorry,
mate. I was just saying. Then Australia have some immaculately quality players, don't they, coming through in the women's game. Arsenal have taken up a lot of them as well, haven't they, recently?
Yeah, so that you're right, Dave. Arsenal have got Caitlin Ford there. Chelsea have brought Sam Kerr as well, one of their top forwards to Chelsea, and you've got Hayley at Everton. So it's quite nice, I guess, for them as well that it seems to be you're spot on. Like we've had an influx of Aussies coming over, a few of the Americans as well, and a few Danes as well, weirdly, but. Yeah, it's really good and shows the growth of the game as well. I think that you're getting all these internationals coming through and locating that England is the place to be to play their footy.
And just finally, Sarah, on obviously the Women's Super League is fast approaching. As it starts a week ahead of the men's game getting underway. Everton played Bristol City in their first game on Sunday, the 6th of September, I think it is. And just sort of leading into another topic quickly. This week, well, I think today, the government have announced various regulations in regards to supporters being able to attend. There's a friendly between Chelsea and Brighton men at the Amex this weekend, which they're going to have a select amount of tickets to. And there's another game in the Women's Super League. Forgive me, I can't remember off the top of my head which one it is, but they are looking at getting fans back in the game as well. I mean, if the women's game can be a vehicle for getting supporters back in stadiums, then that's going to be magnificent, isn't it?
Definitely. I mean, I really hope that they do utilise on this and manage to get the fans in because, as you say, it's going to be, you should imagine, quite a while before we're all able to be back at Goodison. I know there was in that email talks about limited capacity and how that would be sorted. I don't know, but I think there is much more scope in the women's game for fans to be able to come back. And for Everton women's team and for all women's teams, I think that can only be a positive thing. You know, people are missing like mad being able to get to watch their live football and get to the game and that whole thing of it's like a day out and the experience of it. So if we're allowed to have fans in sooner at Walton Hall Park and, into the stadiums for the women's games, then hopefully it'll open the door for a whole new bunch of supporters as well that might turn up and can't go and watch the men's team just yet, try and get to Walton Hall Park and really be bitten by the bug, as I said, and fall in love with it. So let's hope that we see fans back in the women's game sooner rather than later.
And just finally, Sarah, obviously, a lot of the girls really well, and they haven't played football for a long time now. Their season was cancelled. They've been, socially distancing. They've been in isolation. They've been in pretty much everything, and obviously been back in training again this week. I mean, obviously each player is different, so has got their own experience and own feelings. But in general, how are they feeling about the campaign starting again in the current circumstances?
Everyone's really, really excited. I think just to have the season cut off the way it was, when they were having a pretty positive season as well, it was gutting. And then there was obviously the uncertainties for months and everyone was kind of just doing their own training at home. Everyone was sending them programs and stuff. But I know they're just all made up to be back together. And again, I know it's not quite the same. There's still a lot of measurements in place and stuff at Finch Farm. But just such an important thing about a football team is the team thing, the spirit, and being there together with so many new faces in as well. They've all got to meet each other. You've blended the old with the new kind of thing. And I feel there's a real vibe of we're going to have a successful season this season. We built on it. Willie Kirk has done an exceptional job since he's come in over the last 2 seasons. There's been, a noticeable real U-turn in the form of Everton. But to now have brought in all those players, and we've also got an FA Cup game from last season, weirdly, that is to look forward to as well. So still a prospect of silverware. And I think everyone's just really, really ramped up and, thinking, let's try and put our mark on the WSL now. We've invested, Everton are behind the women's team. let's try and upset that big three. Why not?
Yeah, 100%. Should be agreed. Really interesting campaign for them. Like Sarah said, if there is a chance to get down some of those games this season, make sure you do. Live footy is always great. I think you're all very much missing it. Well, just very quickly, David, we've been told to knock the shower, chat on the air by Lee Winstanley. Probably understandable, to be fair.
Yeah. He knows exactly what I mean. That's why he doesn't want to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's had a bad experience, hasn't he?
Yeah. Oh, without shadow. Yeah. Anyone who's glass.
Yeah, original mint shower gel.
Don't want that in your Christmas stocking, do you, with your Links Africa?
Yeah, original mint sauce shower gel sales go through the roof on Merseyside after Everton's kit launch. Subliminal messaging going on there. Yeah. But let's move on to have a chat about the one of the biggest stories of the summer from Everton's point of view. Thankfully, Dave, we don't have to talk about Alan or Abdoulaye Doucouré this week, as we've seemingly been doing for a while now. Because a big story broke last night. It was Jason Burt of The Telegraph and Sky Sports. And Fabrizio Romano as well, who writes for The Guardian and other sources, who's become a bit of a really well-placed source when it comes to transfer stories. But effectively, James Rodriguez, Real Madrid player, Colombia international, has been strongly linked with a move to the Blues. There's been talk of a permanent deal, 3 years. Obviously, Carlo Ancelotti's worked with him twice before. He's got the best out of him twice before at his previous two clubs. And do you know what, Dave? I was saying this to Sarah before we came on air. Even being really sensible about this, and I'm saying Everton shouldn't be signing players of this age on this sort of money. They shouldn't be signing players who've not played much for 2 years in the past. They shouldn't be signing players who've got a bit of a bad injury record. That's all in the sensible column. And the sensible column in terms of negatives against this signing is probably a lot longer than the positives one. But in the positive one is that it's James Rodriguez.
You can't say much more than that, can you? This is a guy who's the most expensive footballer in world football at one stage. He lit up a World Cup, the absolute standout star player in the World Cup, albeit quite some time ago. I think for every negative, I'll put it in a good way. I think for every negative you can think of, there's a positive that keeps you thoroughly intrigued, that makes you want this to happen. It's different to the way we usually view players that we think are past their best, who haven't looking at signing for an obscene amount of money, isn't it? Because normally we think, right, he's done that good, but yeah, he's that old. He's done that good, yeah, but has he scored that many goals? All of those sorts of caveats come into it. With this, I think you can do it in the other way around, which is quite refreshing. And I think we're still in an era now where if players like that present themselves, I feel as if you have to take that risk. You have to say, do you know what? When are we getting this opportunity to sign a world-class player ever again? Because they're not easy to come by at Everton. We know that. We know that we've had plenty of false dawns with players we thought could go on to achieve that sort of thing. Luckily, right now we have one in Richarlison that might well find himself on that pedestal at some point. But to keep him at the club, it says it all, doesn't it? To keep him at the club, you probably need signings like this to keep him interested and motivated, to think that Everton's the place to be and where we can fulfill his ambitions of playing in the Champions League and things like that. You only do that with players like James Rodriguez, and he's had a magnificent career, albeit I think people are starting to conflate him maybe possibly being on the downward trajectory in his career with him not actually being given enough game time by Zinedine Zidane at Real Madrid. I mentioned this stuff this morning on our team talk show. 28 games in the last 2 seasons, and he's only started 18 of them. And most of them aren't through injury. The absences that you can look at in the gap in the fixtures that he played and he didn't play in aren't there necessarily because of injury. A couple of them are, of course, but a lot of the time he was fit and ready to go. And much the same way as Gareth Bale's career has gone at Real Madrid, Zidane's opted for somebody else and left him frozen out in the cold. He's quite brutal when it's like that, I think, at Real Madrid. So he's sitting there doing nothing. I think he'll take some time to get up and running. But I think for all the benefits a player like that gives you, if you were to say to me, we sign him and we get 30 games out from next season, the guy averages an assist or a goal pretty much 3 in every 4 games. So he's the exact type of player you want from a creative perspective. The only issue I have here, Matt, is something you mentioned this morning as well, which I thought was a really good point. In terms of the chronology of how this goes, you'd rather have that sort of base of a Doucouré and an Alan already in to be able to say, right, Rodriguez is in there, he can go and do whatever he likes. You give him a free role, you play him as a 10. How he fits into a 4-4-2 is probably another issue as well. If Ancelotti wants to persist with that, I'm guessing he would have to change, because he wouldn't have done that with Rodriguez at Bayern and Real Madrid in the past either. So you're essentially looking at him thinking, do you know what? He's that sprinkle of stardust that changes a game from a 0-0 to a 1-0 victory, or if you're getting beaten, he clinches a draw for you. He's got that X factor. Exactly the same the type of player we need, just probably not as important as the other two. I would think so. It's to me, it comes with caution. I think you do have to be cautious. 29 years of age, and the mileage he's had at various different clubs, but you cannot say that when he's played he hasn't delivered, and that is almost a cast iron guarantee. If you can get the games out of him, this man will deliver. That's what world class players do. So I'm more in the pro camp, but cautious about it, cautiously optimistic about him. Get those other two lads in first, get some real mobility in that midfield, and you can go and tell him to do whatever the hell he likes in the final third, because it will produce goals and assists.
Yeah, let us know your thoughts on this as well in the comments. GJH just said we desperately need to rebuild midfield. I'd say slowly but surely, typically, but it's that bad. These transfers will do that. We need a centre forward and a right winger, ideally too. Lee Winstanley said agree with Dave. Declan Quinn said agree with Dave. Sarah, where are you with this one? I think last week when you were on last week, we said we haven't really had any transfer rumours that have excited us yet. I imagine this one excited you when you saw it last night.
Yeah, definitely. And it's, when Ancelotti first came to the club, those links were automatically made, weren't they, with Rodriguez, given how out of favour he's been at Real Madrid, and the fact he's played under Ancelotti a couple of times. And yeah, the likes of Allen, Decore, they're players that we desperately need, and I think will improve us vastly. But when you get linked with a player like Rodriguez, Dave just summed it up perfectly there. I think you think back to that World Cup he had. He's a player who on his day can light up the pitch. To average a goal or assists every 3 out of 4 games is incredible. And yeah, I'm totally with Dave on that. If we can secure those first 2 signings that are going to shore us up, and something that we really need, them box-to-box midfielders to sort us out, I think then you bring Rodriguez in, and it's a real sprinkling of stardust, as you said, and somebody that can hopefully provide a lot of service as well as goals to the forwards that we've already got in the team. So yeah, he's one to get excited about. What I will say is, again, a lot is dependent on the fee. I don't know what the fee being linked with is, but we don't want to fall into spending, big money on a player that is 20. And it's not all about age, but when someone's not played much football for a long time, if you're going to be paying, you'd imagine his wages would be quite high. So it's got to be the right deal for Everton. We don't want to end up, we're still in the midst of trying to clear out a load of rubbish that's on massive wages. I'm not saying that he'd be a load of rubbish, but you get where I'm coming from. I think to justify bringing in a player like that, ideally I'd like to see a couple go, but we can't be turning our nose up at the likes of bringing in Rodriguez. I mean, look at the team we've got now. If Everton want to push, Everton need to be in Europe, especially now we've got Ancelotti. The crop of players we've currently got aren't going to do that. Somebody like that, and it's not the brand, it's not on brand with brands either, is it? It's another one of them signings towards the last stages of his career, a well-established player, somebody that we all know. So it doesn't fit the bill of what we thought we were going to see, but mate, I'd take him here all day long. If we could, how much better would we feel if we secure in the next couple of, it needs to be the next couple of weeks, Alan, Decore and Rodriguez. I still think we could do with more, definitely, but this isn't going to be easy. It's a huge task. I'd take him all day long.
Yeah, I think that. Go on, Dave.
The other point I wanted to make about transfers with us, I see a lot of people talking about the pros and cons of signing players too much, and I think we're in a danger of sort of pigeonholing every single player that we're linked with and thinking, do you know what, I need to know how old he is. That's crucial. It's the first thing I'm going to look at because we've signed aging players before and it hasn't worked out. And it seems to me like everybody's judging these players with context of what's been and gone before. I feel as if we need to sort of eliminate a lot of that from our minds. Yes, we don't want to be silly in the market again like we have been and get our fingers burnt. And I've seen the stat the other day, 275 million quid net spend in the last 5 years. I mean, it's criminal when you think of it that way, but I think we need a much more of a clean slate approach with all of these guys we're being linked with now, because there's so much context that goes with the ones that have failed. You think about Sigurdsson, think about the different managers he's had to work under. You think about how good was he actually in the first place for us to go and splash 45 million quid on. There's all that to contend with on an individual basis with all the failures we still have at the football club. Now, you can't simply take that and think, oh, do you know what? I'm signing someone else who's 29 for 30 odd million quid. He's obviously going to be crap because the rest of them we've done it have been the same. You can't look at it like that. You have to look at it through the eyes. And I'm really pleased to be able to say this of Carlo Ancelotti, who's worked with these players, knows what he wants from the market. Someone like him, he's obviously earmarked as a target for Everton because, again, like Sarah says, I don't think it's a Brands type sign and it's not in his remit, this one. And it's brilliant to see, I think, that it's him who's taking charge of this situation, Ancelotti himself, and not thinking the way it's gone in the past, maybe with Marco Silva saying to Brands, look, I've got a profile of player I want to sign, you go and get me them. This is him actually identifying people, actual individuals who he thinks can make this club better, ones he worked with in the past at the very, very highest level. I think that stands up a hell of a lot taller than us banging on about players that have failed in the past who are of a similar age to James Rodriguez and things like that. I need to stop calling him James. It's just not going to go down well, is it? His name's James.
I don't actually know how you pronounce it. You know, I think it's just one of those things.
I don't think he's called James in his native tongue, is he?
I don't know. I'm sure when we get a Spanish footy expert on when he signs for us to ask him about that, we can clarify all that.
You need to ask Yerry Mina.
Yeah, I'm sure the club. I'm sure the club will do some kind of hilarious video with him if it does come through. But just quickly read some of the comments we've had here on YouTube. Rob has said, if James Rodriguez didn't have risk factors, we wouldn't be in a position to sign him. True of any of the high upside veteran players we could actually sign at the moment. We're mid-table, hence risk. Ash Purser said risk away. Simple, straightforward. Mark Allison has said, any Rodriguez move will fall down in the last hurdle as the board are not competent enough to get this done. There will be a systematic trail of issues that will finish the move breaking down. Fair enough, Mark. Obviously,
the manager won't be here very long if that's the case, because he won't stand for
it. Ethan Brown has said these are the sort of signings that made us go and get Ancelotti to start with. I think we also need a right back. Teams will target that area next season. He's also said, yes, Dave, just because the Walsh in a sweet shop phase didn't work out doesn't mean the spending again won't work. And one more from Berminder has said, if we do end up getting all three, I can see it. So this is obviously Doucouré, Allen and Rodriguez. I can see a change of formation, maybe 4-3-3 or even a 4-4-2 with a diamond. Just quickly, Sarah, on the point Ethan made there in regards to these are the sort of signings that made us go and get Ancelotti. I suppose if you look at Ancelotti's career and his remit, just thinking about it now, the thing that everybody said about him at clubs like Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, AC Milan, more recently, you know, some of the other huge sides he's managed, it's always been said that what he does well is he makes high-profile players even better. So with that in mind, perhaps it's not a huge surprise that he's targeting these lads who've maybe just fallen by the wayside a little bit in recent years. You just need that bit of glossing, bit of shining up to sort of make that bit better again.
Yeah, and you know, when Ancelotti took the Everton job, I think that's something that everybody spoke about, wasn't it? That this is going to be a totally different thing for him. He's used to working with like the best players in the world, and Rodriguez on his day does fall into that category. So yeah, in that aspect, and you know, one of the things you think players that we've brought in before that maybe felt they were too big for the club, or you know, we've got a manager, as you say, who's worked with them. We've got one of the best in the world who no doubt these players would run through brick walls for. So yeah, maybe these are the players that Ancelotti will work well with and take us up to that next level. So yeah, I guess if you want to be the best, you've got to have the best players for the best manager. And yeah, for the time being, I certainly think getting in players like that with that experience that the manager knows and have got a little bit of well, that's the point I'm trying to make. I guess the players that are coming in still aren't bigger than the manager, because I think something that we have had a problem with is maybe players have come in and they've not liked the manager, and we've seen players down tools and everything like that. I think if you're getting stars in now with this manager, you're not going to see that happen because it's Carlo Ancelotti. So yeah, I think he makes a really good point, and I guess you want to work with the best, you want to see the best. And you've got to have faith in the manager. Do you know what I mean? So if this is somebody that he's said, I really want to play for, really want to come and play for me, then I think we've got to go with it and hopefully be able to bring him in for him.
I think that's an excellent point about the manager, Sarah, with Ancelotti having that acumen behind him when he comes in. There's nobody there who's gonna take his thunder at all, is there? When you look at the managers we've had in the past, and you can probably see why big-headed, egotistical footballers, and I am stereotyping there, probably look at the manager and think, you know what, I'm better than this, I can do what I like. I don't need to have any standards really, because I can down tool who I want, because this fella's not going to be here too long. And I think you can probably look at the current squad now and think there's people who have seen Ancelotti come through the door and thought, wow, this guy's incredible, and look at him awe-stricken, and then probably thought, you know what, I can't meet his standards. And maybe that's why we see the fall off in the form of so many of them, and how many of them continuously let us down. Maybe they sit there and think, you know what, I'm probably not worthy of this guy. Or even if I do think I am, and I think I'm good enough in my head, he's showing me that that's not the level I can play at. So ultimately, it puts them in a different bracket going forward for the club. So his arrival there, I'm adamant that his standards lift the entire place. There's no doubt about that. He just needs that little bit of help in the market. And thankfully, with all this talk we're going on about the midfield trio that we're going to bring in, hopefully that does enough to sort of quench the thirst he's got in terms of what he needs to take us forward, because the tools are there now. He's there. I mean, I've said for some time this summer, I've gotten down about Everton this summer simply because he's the only light for me. He's the only one that makes this right and fixes all this and gets us better and pushes us to where we all want to be. Everything else needs to keep up with him. Everything else needs to be done for him. At his slightest whim, Everton need to respond to what he wants here, because it's the only time in our lifetime, us three on here right now, where we've had a genuinely world-class manager who knows what it takes and knows what it is to win things. That needs to be sort of on the headboard of every bed of every player. Anyone we're thinking of signing across the whole entire club, internally at Finch Farm, on every doorway. Carlo Ancelotti's the manager of this football club. What are we going to do about it?
I love the idea, Dave, of all our players going home, get printed off Carlo Ancelotti's CV and framing it and putting it above the bed, and all the partners and the missuses are like, "What are you doing?" It's like, "Oh yeah, I've been told I've got to put Carlo's CV above the headboard."
Correct. There should be a home reciting it, get it drilled into the skulls about what this man can do for them, and then try and match it. And that's the only way we're going to get better, I think, if people finally start aspiring and waking up to the fact that this guy will get us there if we give him the right tools to do so.
Yeah, the one thing I will say about it is, and obviously, when I've spoken about this in the past, I've been very much an advocate of signing younger players. I think if Everton are going to go down this route and sign players who are in the peak years, if not a little bit past the peak years, I would rather than be of the profile of James Rodriguez. It's somebody who isn't really reliant on his physical ability, has shown he's versatile, and it sort of feels, hopefully he can come in and have sort of the impact that someone like Materio had at Wolves, where you'd say he's probably a little bit past his best. But if you put him in a setup which has got a lot of structure, got a lot of legs around him, they all know what they're doing, and you just sort of say, go and provide a bit of stardust for us and play with freedom, but play within this structure. I think that can work more than bringing in someone like an Alan, whose game has been very much dependent on his legs and getting around the pitch and his tenacity. And now he's 29. That could go when he's 30, 31, 32, because we've seen it happen before. If you've got technical ability and quality and an eye for a pass and great set-piece delivery and that bit of ingenuity to your play, that tends to be preserved a little bit longer as you get into your early 30s and your mid 30s and even your late 30s in some cases. And that's why I'd rather see Everton go down this route with more players like him than others there as well. Just very quickly on some other comments we've had. Lee White had said, as much as I'm chuffed with Mashiri, I just want him to stay out of the transfer activities, leave it all to Carlo. Sam Johnson said we should be all over Diego Dalot, right wing back who can play right wing as well. Any thoughts on that?
I saw we were linked with Diego Dalot like last week or something, and obviously he's a young lad as well. He fit that profile of being able to move forward up the pitch as well. And yeah, not thought too much about that one, to be honest with you. But Yeah, wouldn't be devastated to see that come off. I definitely think we need strength down in that right back position, right full back kind of thing, because we haven't really got much in the way of it's like between Coleman and John Joe Kenny if he stays or whatever. So yeah, be interesting to see if anything develops with the Dalot link.
Yeah, Money Mad 1878 said we should have got Kyle Walker-Peters from Spurs. Seriously talented right back. I've just seen there that Spurs are apparently signing Matt Doherty from Wolves for 15 million. Could be a really good, really smart signing for them. But yeah, we are out of time for today. Thanks very much to everyone for getting involved in the comments on YouTube. We are going to be doing this show live every week on Wednesday now. And listen to the podcast as well. Do let us know your thoughts on Twitter at the Blue Room EFC. And just before we go today, just another little quick little bit for now and for the 800 season. We are going to be doing a bit of a team up with Toffee Web, who I'm sure everybody who listens to this knows. Some of the best written content, probably the best written content on Everton online from supporters, from journalists, from historians as well. So we're going to be sort of telling you what you can read and what you can hear about on Toffee Web as well throughout the course of the season. And in turn, if you want to find our podcasts anywhere, you'll be able to on the Toffee Web website. So just a heads up this week that Lyndon Lloyd, who is the owner and creator of Toffee Web, has done an absolutely fantastic piece on the challenges facing Marcel Brands and his recruitment team this summer. So do head over to Toffee Web and check it out. If you want to read it, the link will be in the YouTube comments description here online. And if you listen to this via a podcast, it'll be in the description as well. So do go and check that out as well. We're going to be doing a lot more collaborative stuff with Toffee Web over the course of the campaign. Really excited about that, Dave, because there's always great stuff going up on there, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of the go-to place I read stuff. I think it's from credible people, experienced writers and new ones as well that are sort of making their way in as sort of Everton journalists, because it just keeps getting bigger and bigger, doesn't it? So, yeah, they're definitely the best, and yeah, excited to be working with them, mate.
Yeah, so go and check that piece out by Lyndon. Like I said, we'll put it in the YouTube description now. If you listen to this on a podcast, it will be in the little blurb that goes up underneath. But yeah, we are out of time today. Thanks very much to Dave. Thanks very much to Sarah. That has been the Blue Room Weekly. We'll speak to you again, same time next week, here at 5 o'clock live. We'll speak to you soon. Wonderful.
Done.
Wunderbar!